New Zealand wants to curb cyberbullying. So they're doing so by criminalizing any type of behavior that might hurt someone else's feelings. Now, let me give you an example. They have just passed a bill referred to as the Harmful Digital Connections Bill. The bill creates a regime under which digital communications causing serious emotional distress are subject to an escalating regime that starts as negotiation, mediation, or persuasion, but reaches up to creating the offenses of not complying with an order and causing harm by posting digital communication. Now, that is obviously a verbose way of explaining what is going on, but essentially what they're saying is that if you are caught cyberbullying someone else, if you are causing some sort of emotional distress to someone else, you could face 2 years in prison as a result of that. Wow. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure how they intend on enforcing something like this. And also, New Zealand is not ruler of the world. So what do they do if someone is living in a different country and they're so-called cyberbullying?
Stamp their feet. That's about it, I assume.
I mean, there's a lot of, I get it. I mean, there are people online, trolls in particular, that say things that hurt other people's feelings. And sometimes cyberbullying can be so aggressive that people who are depressed might do something to harm themselves. But this is very difficult legislation to enforce, and even if you could enforce it, the language in the bill is so broad and vague that I think that it could actually violate people's freedom of expression.
Yeah, look, I don't know overall if I support this bill. I mean, one thing that I like that shows that they know what they're talking about is they say that they start off with these trolls, they use negotiation, mediation, and persuasion. Because if we know one thing, it's that trolls will respond to rational attempts to convince them that they're doing the wrong thing.
Of course, they love that.
Yeah, I like what they want to do. I like their goal. I don't want the internet to be this place that we make jokes constantly about how awful people are. And look, we love our comments and we love our tweets. Like, we acknowledge that, but at the same time, there's a lot of just terrible communication. There seems to be, it seems like a growing percentage of the population that their entertainment in life is trying to ruin other people's lives, to grief them, to troll them. And I want to get rid of that too, especially when it leads to cyberbullying, where people are literally committing suicide. But from what I've read about the law, this does not seem like the solution. I don't know that there is a solution.
It's really difficult to come up with solutions because creating policy for the internet is not the same as creating domestic policy, right? You're dealing with the World Wide Web. So it's very difficult for you to regulate the behavior of someone living abroad. And then also, you start entering murky waters when you start to decide what is and isn't abusive language.
Totally.
So I'm really worried about that. But let me give you some more information about this bill. The most serious offenders would face 2 years in jail or a maximum fine of $33,900 US. Okay?
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the fact that it's based on if you caused serious emotional distress to a person, like, I can only control what I do. I can't control how somebody responds to what I do. That's why you get in trouble if you mug someone, not if they feel uncomfortable when you're around them. Like, you can't phrase the law in a way that is purely based on the emotional reaction of the victim. Like, you can say there are specific things you are not allowed to do. Like, for instance, I think that they say something to like incitement to suicide. Okay, don't tell people go kill yourself. I get that. You can try to outlaw that. But there's all sorts of political discussions and religious discussions you can have. I mean, who knows what, for any one individual, is going to cause emotional distress? That's way too broad and vague, as you were saying.
So just to give you even more of an example of how broad this legislation is, the bill covers posts that are racist, sexist, or show religious intolerance, along with hassling people over disability or sexual orientation. I've been on the record regarding hate speech before. I don't like hate speech. I'm very protective of every community as long as the community doesn't involve racists and bigots or whatever. But I'm protective over the freedom of expression.
Yes.
And I think that if you have something offensive to say, you should be able to say that offensive thing without the government intervening.
Yes.
That's not to say that private citizens or private companies can't punish you for what you've said, which is what happened with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the government shouldn't be able to come in and tell you, no, you're hurting people's feelings. You're not allowed to say that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, they're not obligated to provide you a venue to say that, but they shouldn't step in and stop you from saying it where you can. The only thing that I think that could help is I do think that these different moves that some companies have made, like YouTube has done it, where they try to, and Huffington Post did it, where they take away some of the anonymity, where you have to prove who you are. If you can have someone's statements be easily traced back to exactly the person they are, and you couple that with some sort of search engine where people can go back and see what people have said, take away people's ability to hide behind a pseudonym or a handle or whatever, and maybe they'll be a little bit more responsible in the way they communicate. It's not going to solve the problem, but it might help a little bit.